Now we go to the Central African Republic. On Friday, hundreds of people gathered outside the country's main airport, impatiently waiting for French troops to arrive and protect them from rebel forces. On Thursday, the UN Security Council authorized the deployment of more French military troops, hoping to contain the violence and restore stability in the country. France is sending about 1,200 troops to its former colony. French Foreign Minister Laurent Fabius described the situation as being, quote, on the verge of genocide. Now, on Thursday, more than 100 people were killed in deadly clashes between a Christian militia group and Muslim armed fighters who have ruled the country since the coup in March. Now, joining me live from the Central African Republic, I believe we have Nazanin Moshiri, Al Jazeera correspondent. Is that correct?
Yes, you do.
Nazanin, forgive me, I couldn't see you. I guess you're joining us by the phone. I want to ask you.
Yes, I am.
I'm going to show some tweets that are depicting a very horrific scene. These are, pictures of utter carnage, really, in the main hospital of Bangui. Right here, there are dozens of people dying on the floor. Tristan Redman of AJE is showing some of those people who've been hit by gunshots, machete wounds. When we look at these images, we can only imagine that it's getting worse. What's the latest on the ground, Nazanin?
Well, that was the aftermath of what was an attack by, as you mentioned there, a Christian militia group, which is known by anti-Balaka, on the city on Thursday morning. And that attack continued throughout the day. What's been happening is that overnight, the Seleka forces, they're the forces, as you mentioned, who took over in a coup in March, they have been carrying out retaliation attacks. Now, as journalists, it's very difficult for us to get a good picture of what's going on around the city. Traveling is very, very dangerous out on the streets right now. The city is practically deserted when you go out and about. There are dead bodies everywhere strewn around. And there are some African forces patrolling and French forces, but they are very limited at the moment in what they can do. And their priority really is to protect civilians as best they can on the main thoroughfares. The latest really is, and it's a shame it didn't come to me earlier, but there were French fighter jets which were flying very low over the city, basically a fly past. And we've spoken to the French military. I was at the airport just before I came on the phone to you. I just got back. And they're doing this as a tactic to intimidate not only Seleka fighters, but also to intimidate anti-Balaka, because they feel by flying low over the city, they're like, we're here, we know what you're doing, and we're coming soon to stop doing it. So they feel that these intimidation tactics may work. But of course, this fighting has been going on for a very long time in this country. This sectarian side of things now with the Christians and Muslims is new, but Central African Republic is one of the poorest countries in the world,
right.
And people here are used to violence.
People here are used to not hearing about the Central African Republic, as you know, Nazanin. With much of the world paying tribute to Mandela, I do want to draw your attention to this tweet by Lindsay Hilsum of Channel 4 in Britain. Of course, she's the international editor. She wrote, in 1994, genocide in Rwanda initially was overlooked because all reporters were in South Africa for Mandela's election. Let's not do the same with CAR today. Obviously, Mandela deserves and should have, as much attention as is being given to him. But are you concerned that Mandela and other news stories might overshadow the violence and the extent of violence and the divisions there in the Central African Republic? Surely that's something Mandela would have spoken out about.
Well, I can tell you that Al Jazeera is not going anywhere. We're staying here. We're staying put. And we have been here 5 times this year, unlike some other international news organizations. I can tell you there are journalists here who are desperate to get to South Africa because that's the big story right now for them. And it is a real shame that news organizations are so stretched. They can't keep teams here. They have to get them to what is the big story, which is the death and passing away of Nelson Mandela. And very interesting that, as you say, in 1994, that story was overshadowed, really, was dominated, and it didn't really get much airtime at that time because of the election of Nelson Mandela. And now, again, we're facing a similar situation. I really hope that people aren't forgotten. I mean, in the past few days, the world seems to have woken up to what's going on here, with the UN passing a very strong resolution to back forces here to send in, give the green light to French forces to come here, and waking up to what is the potential of genocide in this country. And having spent a lot of time here, I can tell you this crisis is deepening. Not only a humanitarian crisis, but we're looking at sectarian violence, which is just escalating here.
And Nazanin, I do want to just draw people's attention to this photo that you just tweeted from the airport just not so long ago, of course, describing the scene where some people are rejoicing, some people were eagerly awaiting the French troops, others perhaps worried. And to your point, as always, Al Jazeera does cover these stories more often than most. Of course, if you want to follow this story, you can follow Nazanin Moshiri on Twitter, who's there on the ground. Nazanin, such a pleasure to have you with us. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.